Welcome to Casual Politics, Mims Davies. Thank you very much for accepting my request, and I'm very grateful to you. First, please allow me to congratulate you as your election as Member of Parliament for Eastleigh.
Thank you.
And how exciting was it for you to become actually Member of Parliament for a Lib Dem, safe seat since 1992?
Yeah, it was very exciting actually. We knew that we were in with a fight and a chance, and we were working really, really hard. Been out on the doorsteps for around 9 months, built a big team up, and knew that things were sort of potentially going our way, but certainly if you looked out into the media, they didn't think that Eastleigh was going to be a Conservative gain. So I was delighted with the over 9,000 majority that we achieved as a team.
And how was your feeling when you were delivering your maiden speech, your first speech in Parliament?
It was absolutely incredible. So just to be able to go into the chamber and be one of the people that's actually allowed to sit on the green benches is amazing. I'm a pretty confident person, but it's absolutely knee-knocking to stand up there and speak for the first time. It's quite different acoustics. It's quite like a church. It's quite different. People are very kind to you during your maiden speech and give you a good go. But I very much enjoyed giving people a tour around Eastleigh. Most people made jokes about it with being a gastronomic tour as well, because certainly during the campaign I knew all the best places to grab a cup of coffee or shelter from the rain. But it was amazing and wonderful to be the first female Conservative MP for Eastleigh.
And what's the recipe for a good maiden speech?
Well, there's kind of some do's and don'ts. So definitely are the do's that you thank and respect your predecessors, and I very carefully looked at what had been said and gone before me. So David Price, who was the MP for nearly 40 years, I've met his daughter and enjoyed her company as well, so I was delighted to talk about him as a Conservative MP that people spoke very warmly about on the doorstep, so I mentioned him. Obviously Mike Thornton, who'd been there since the by-election, and of course Eastleigh was in the news for other reasons, with other MPs in the firing line for other reasons, so I stayed well away from that. That was probably the best thing to do. And you need to highlight the importance of business and community, of what's pretty and what's stand out about Eastleigh and Hedge End and all the villages in my constituency. So it's a great way to sort of trot people around the constituency and get to know who and what you're representing.
And now about Chancellor's budget, do you think that since his budget, that he announced his budget, do you think that households would be better off or worse off?
Well, it was incredible to be in the chamber with a Conservative budget being
Since
read out.
1996.
Absolutely incredible to be in the chamber and be part of that and be really bringing forward our manifesto. And you asked, are people going to be better off? Just looking at the figures yesterday, looking at the news last night, people are starting to feel better off. And these changes, these Conservative changes, are about leaving more money in people's pockets, about giving them a chance to get on the housing ladder, about giving them a chance to go to the right school, go to the right college, perhaps do an apprenticeship or go to university. Have those opportunities and make sure that if they put in, they're getting out. I think people are fed up with that feeling that there's a sense of entitlement that people have, and I think if you're doing all the right things, you should get the right outcomes, and that, I believe, was what the Chancellor was doing in that budget.
And Institute for Fiscal Studies, they said that household would be £800 worse off.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they took account of the tax changes as well. I think generally, as we saw yesterday with the growth figures up 0.7, we're back to pre-recovery levels. I think when all this flows through, people will start to see improvements. I don't want to, at the start of the first 5 years of Conservative government, have people going back to square one and feeling negative. I don't think that was a budget to be negative about. Of course, if there needs to be some tinkering around, we can do that because the economy is recovering. But where we were, we simply couldn't do anything, and I'm delighted to be in this position. But as we heard from the Chancellor yesterday, the work is not yet done. This is the hard graft, but people do, I think, feel more positive, and if they're doing the right things, they should have more money and better opportunity to show for it.
And the big losers of his budget were the students.
Well, I was the first person in my family to go to university. I came out with many debts, and I've managed to get into a pretty reasonable career. And I know people that didn't go to university who've done similarly, but I've managed to pay off my debts and get started. But don't forget, you have to earn a certain level before this kicks in, and it won't be, a noose around people's necks. It will be if you continue to stay on for another 3 years. You'll have to dig in your pocket as well as the people out there working. I think we need to find a balance of people, able to continue with their studies and be able to perhaps earn more than those people that haven't had that chance or it's not for them. But it mustn't be something which affects people going to university. And let's make sure that we're getting the right decisions here. And I think while everybody is being squeezed, and I get letters from people who are disabled, who are unable to work, who are affected by health issues, they're being squeezed. So if you're getting the advantage of an education, then at some point you're going to have to, maybe if you are able to earn better, put some of that back in. And I think that's probably quite fair.
But the most important thing is about inspiration.
Yes.
And at the moment, students are not inspired at all because they say that when we leave university, we'll be left with
But it's
so
not
many
stopping
steps
people
to
going
pay.
to university, and many people that I know who have gone to university are now coming through into economy where there is opportunities for them, absolutely. And I feel as well that a lot of people are not working before they get into university. They're hoping that the dream job will come postgraduate, and that doesn't happen. I've had many different jobs to try and get myself into enough experience so that I felt that once I had my degree that there was a rounded person there. I think we need to be looking for really great graduates, but we also need to look for rounded people. And as we've mentioned, university is not for everyone, so let's make sure that there's a fair playing field. If you're not at higher education, we have to make sure that there's a balance of people paying in who are getting the benefits, and that if you're out working and perhaps you're taking a different path, that you feel that you're not subsidising other people. Let's hope this is the right path, but I'm very prepared to look at it if it does impact the amount of people that are doing well as students and coming into the workplace.
National living wage and clamping down on non-doms. Didn't you have the impression that actually Ed Balls was announcing his budget?
I'm absolutely delighted that we're dealing with the non-dom issues, and just this week as well we've heard the Prime Minister dealing with the people coming in with money from nowhere, buying high value property in London. It's affecting people locally. I think it's about time we dealt with these people. I don't think there's a good idea that someone hasn't had before. And if it's a good idea and it's right for Britain, let's grab it. We've got 5 years to do something about it. I don't want to look back in 5 years and think we didn't deal with the non-doms like the Labour Party did for 13 years. So I hear you on that. I think there are going to be areas where, yes, we are exploring because we've got the opportunity to do it. So let's do it. Let's make sure that those people who should be paying more are doing it.
But they were all Labour policies, and at that time the Chancellor was criticising Ed Balls.
Yeah.
How come that he adopted his policies there?
I think it's pretty standard in politics where sometimes when you're on the other side of the table, it's not a good idea. And then you look at perhaps maybe the tax revenue that you're losing when you are the Chancellor, and you think, actually, maybe we should do something about this. So I think, as I say, I think whichever government, whatever colour, should have dealt with it, and we're dealing with it now. And great that, George Osborne's eyes were open to that, because it means that there's more money in for services and for our communities. And I think those people, if they really are living here, should be paying appropriate taxes.
And there were some other policies such as Help to Buy scheme,
Yes.
and to have a smaller state. So is this government a one nation Tory government, or back to Thatcher, another Thatcher government?
Well, it was interesting. I was at a planning inquiry just yesterday in my constituency where people were upset about losing green spaces to housing, but they had also lived through much change in their communities where housing had come on stream in the right places for their community. And very often when I knocked on the doors and spoke to people, they don't want the wrong type of development, but they do want the right type of development for their children and their grandchildren. So in the right to buy deal, there is an opportunity to plough that money back in and allow homes to come back through. At the moment, there is a stuck process. And also to make sure that brownfield is first. Now, in my constituency, there are areas of brownfield that I know fundamentally should be coming forward for people to live and work units, small units, starter homes, which are not, they're going to maybe retail units, coffee shops, etc. Those should be the units that we're developing for people to get on the housing ladder. So I think it's not a one size fits all. And this, is going to be a difficult policy to bring forward, but I think it's the right policy, because I talk to many young people on the doorstep who feel that people in their 50s or 60s or 70s have had great opportunities and they don't feel that they're there for them. Now it's up to this government to give people a chance. And this is a policy we've brought forward, and it deals with where we were with the Thatcher years, with how do you bring the supply back in. We're still not building enough houses. Labour didn't build enough houses, but we have got to build them on the right sites and in the right places for our youngsters, to give them hope and aspiration to come forward. And that's fundamentally a Conservative value.
So it's not one nation Tory government as it was in your manifesto.
Yeah, I think
back to Thatcher.
Yeah, I think we're a one nation government.
Divisive government that it was.
I don't think we're divisive.
Fascist.
I don't think we've been here long enough. I've only been here 10 weeks. I don't think it can be that divided. I think actually, given the amount of legislation that we've brought through, the amount of manifesto ideas that we're bringing through, I think actually there is a real feeling that these are the right things for Britain. And I certainly look over the other side of the dispatch box, look at Labour and an absolutely depleted Liberal team, and think, where is the opposition? Where are the other good ideas? And I don't think they're out there. But if I was a young person who wanted to go to university, wanted a chance to own my own home, knowing that the interest rates are low, knowing that there's an opportunity, knowing that Britain is growing, I think this is a pretty good place to be. Look around at Greece, look around Europe, and you'll see that people are, it's not easy here, but it's tougher elsewhere. And I think we're making those tough decisions to do the right thing for Britain.
We talked about division. It seems already that after 10 weeks after the election that your party, it's already divided over Europe.
Which papers you've been reading?
Just
talking
with
when I
cabinet
walked
ministers.
in, when I walked in on May the 10th, there are clearly people in this party who have very, very fixed European views. But I will tell you, on the doorsteps across Eastleigh, people felt exactly the same. They wanted a say on Europe. They were ready for a say on it. And they generally have pretty much fixed and decided views. There wasn't many people I spoke to on the doorstep who said, actually, I'm not really sure on Europe. Most people knew they were here or here. And actually, I think if our party is reflecting that and giving people a chance to vote on it, we're doing absolutely the right thing. I don't see us tearing ourselves apart over it. I see us giving the power to the people to make the right decision. And I think ultimately, the people have waited too long. And that's what people told me on the doorstep, and I'm delighted to be part of the government giving that to people to decide.
And do you think that David Cameron should allow a free vote in his cabinet?
I think he will do. I think, as you say, for unity, for governance, for everything, I think we will be able to make our, I'm certainly not in that position now, but I think we're all able to make our own decisions. But what I do think is if he is going out to make that deal for Britain, he should be allowed to come back and very clearly explain what he's got. Because I said to you, people in Eastleigh, across Eastleigh constituency, have made their minds up on what they knew now, but I want them to have an opportunity of what they're voting on. Two different things. So let him go out and do the work which he's doing, and again on the trade mission around the world yesterday, so working really hard for this country, and come back, make the case. I'm a Eurosceptic, let him do it to me, let him do it to all my constituents, and everybody who, of the 650 MPs, have constituents. And those people will decide what is right for Britain.
But how could we trust him? Because Harold Wilson in 1975, he presented his achievements as a triumph, and then after the referendum, we just...
I hear you on that, but I think if people
discovered that he lied.
People do decide on Europe pretty much with their gut. Is this for me? Is this what I want? I think fundamentally, perhaps people will feel it's better the devil you know. But it's very hard to argue with people who feel strongly on the other side. Now, whose argument will be stronger? Will it be that the Conservative-led government with David Cameron has made the right decision for Britain, or will it be that people's gut feeling is maybe we don't want to be in the Europe that we're being given? Let those people decide. I'm not afraid of that. We are net importers when it comes to Europe, so they need us. And I'm very happy to be in Europe and a part of Europe. I don't want to ever be anywhere near the euro, but I know that although we might not be in the situation we are now, we will remain friends. It's the way it works. But I'm not afraid of making a change if that's what the people decide. And I'm sure that the Prime Minister, being the genuine and stand-up guy that he is, he would deal with that as well.
And as you may know, John Major in the 90s, he
Yeah.
called those ministers in his cabinet that they were Eurosceptics bastards, and that they were trying to tear apart the Conservative government. So do you think that are the bastards back in government?
I think we've taken such a long time to get back into this position as a majority Conservative government. I just don't see that there's a strong enough wing of the party which will undo all the hard work that we have done to get back in. But let those people have their say. I think it's right that if you feel strongly on any issue, in any party, there's a broad enough church, particularly in the Conservative Party, to make your case. And yeah, of course, we'll look back to John Major, and I think, there was much more going on than just the European issue there. But absolutely, this party takes Europe very seriously. And just remember, across the dispatch box, and until Harriet Harman, became the overnight leader, they were not prepared to give the people a say in Europe. Overnight, swish through, that's our policy then, this is now. That is just as wrong. They wouldn't be in the position they're in now if they'd been listening to people wanting a say in Europe. So it's not about 5, 10 or 15 Conservative politicians. This is about the people that live and work and are our country having a say about what is our future and how does it look when it comes to Europe.
And why 60 and 70 years old they're not allowed to have a say in this referendum?
Yeah, and I'll admit I'm quite torn on that. There is part of me that feels, this is their future, perhaps they should have a big say. But I go back to being on the doorstep and talking to people of that age bracket. They're probably the one people when it came to my feeling of Europe where they weren't so sure. Whereas, people who'd been voting for a time had really come to a conclusion. Having said that, I understand that the mandate was given to us through our manifesto to deliver this referendum. So I think the franchise sitting on what we've got is a very clear mandate. And I think if you tinker it on the edges, as much as it's appealing to bring in 16 and 17-year-olds like they did in Scotland, it could muddy the waters of what is the eventual decision. And if we want a clear decision, then perhaps we need to just make sure that the franchise and the question is very, very clear. And the more that we argue about everything on the periphery, then actually what is the real issue is not dealt with. And the real issue is, do we want to be in Europe in the way that David Cameron brings it to us as the question, or don't we? Let the people decide. And the people are the over 18s, the franchise for it.
And what role will Mims Davies play in the EU referendum? Will you campaign for, because you said that you're a Eurosceptic, that Britain leaves the
I'm a Eurosceptic, but it doesn't keep me awake every night. There are people, I know, it's every waking moment. I've seen it in this chamber and here in the House that, it is something that, deeply concerns and worries them. But for me, I'm quite happy to be a Eurosceptic. I'm quite happy to look at what the Prime Minister brings back and says, actually, I can live with that. So I'm very clear that for me, Europe as it is now is not how I like to see it going forward for my children and for this country. Let's look at what's on the table. Let's look at the question. And I have one vote. So I have got to be very careful if if I think that I'm going to be running around the country telling other people what to do, to my mind, I want to give them a clear option that this is their decision. And I am the person sitting here voting through this legislation in order to give them that decision. I don't think I'm going to be the person rushing up and down to, John O'Groats and Land's End and here and there everywhere telling people, what they should be thinking. I'm very much about empowering, particularly younger people and women, to get involved and take a view, because I think it's a great opportunity to people get involved in politics as a whole. And I don't want to be forcing down my thoughts down to everyone's throats. So I think this is a great opportunity, like we saw in Scotland, to get more people involved in the political process. And limiting it and pushing it in one direction, I'm not at this precise point feeling that is something I'm going to be deeply involved in. I would like to see the campaigns evolve and progress. I don't know how they're going to look like and what they're going to do. So to my mind, let the people decide and be part of that process.
And you talked about excitement and younger people that they want to get more engaged in politics. Over the last few couple of weeks, there were actually a huge excitement amongst younger people to go and join Labour Party and to vote for Jeremy Corbyn.
Yes.
How nostalgic is it that you are losing more younger people to Labour Party?
I look back at lots of my friends at university and I think, oh yeah, I think I know quite a lot of those people. Absolutely, and I think there is a time to be ideological that way, but that will come back to us, I think. Jeremy Corbyn's fascinating because when I first sat in the chamber, I must confess I didn't really know who he was, and he got up and he spoke from the heart with passion and with vigour and conviction, and in that kind of older sphere, Labour Party. And I remember thinking, fascinating guy, but he's in an era that I don't recognise. And is it that young people are really resonating with him?
But is that what we lack in politics, in British politics today? People like Michael Foots, Powell's, or that sort of oratory that they used to have, whereas today we don't have.
I think you see it with Farage or anyone
But
who's
not in
in
Parliament.
essence on the fringe or the edge, who
Not
can
in
come out
Parliament.
and say and do what they want, not necessarily be held to it. So I'm wondering, if actually a bit like we've seen in Greece, when actually push comes to shove and you've got to deliver on your heartfelt, well-meaning ideals, actually it's a little bit harder. And so, I can see that Jeremy Corbyn would be very seductive to younger people who, feel that they're getting a tough deal. But I think when we spoke at the beginning of the interview, I think actually in 3 or 4 years' time, it will be those people that will be feeling that the Conservative government has delivered what they've been looking for. And good luck to Jeremy Corbyn. And there's some really fundamental problems in the Labour Party about how they fight a working people focused Conservative party, because we are very much about making sure that we are the party that I know on the grassroots rather than the party that people in the press and the media perceive. And I think we're doing a great job in turning that around and people understanding that actually, we are here for the people to do the right things. So, younger people, they may vote Corbyn now, but they might vote, Conservative going forward. Well, let's see.
And do you think that the only way that your party could get re-elected in 2020 is to see Jeremy Corbyn as a leader of Labour Party?
I just look at them in disarray, and I think Liz Kendall's a fantastic. I mean, for me, she's the no-brainer. She's, bright.
They call her the Tory Baron.
Well, she's bright and vivacious, and she's got something about her. She, for me, but hey, look at my politics and look where her politics is. Andy Burnham obviously, has got a really strong core support, but he's got baggage, so there is baggage going on. But we've been a party with baggage. You have to get over it, and that's the Labour Party to sort out. And as the Prime Minister said just yesterday, he was enjoying watching. And I think most Conservative MPs in a majority government here are enjoying that just as much as the Prime Minister.
And as I know that you're in a rush, so my last question, what are the challenges that your party will face over the next 5 years, and what role will you play to help your party to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think the challenges are absolutely about making sure that we appeal to the broadest church of the Conservatives. That's really important, particularly to women. You know, men very often know they're Conservative, but when I was on the doorstep in Eastleigh, I was talking to women and younger ladies on the doorstep about what matters to them, and quite often what mattered to them was Conservative core values, but they hadn't quite linked the two up. So for me, I'm the chair of the Women in Parliament or parliamentary group, so I'm really keen to make sure that this sphere involves more women, that people feel more connected with it. I'm on the Women in Equality Select Committee as well, so there's some great work to be doing around that, particularly supporting older women coming back into the workplace, and essentially looking at the transsexual issues as well. So we're doing some quite groundbreaking work. So I'm really keen to be part of a really forward-thinking Conservative party, and actually to shatter some of those barriers that people, think about being a Conservative. I think if you look across the benches of the 74 new Conservative MPs that we've got, we're all really diverse with some different backgrounds, from cancer nurses to people that run scaffolding companies to eye doctors. We are not, your typical Tory toffs, and we're going to work really, really hard to let people know that, people in the chamber fighting for them are real people who understand their real concerns, and that I'm there, week in, week out with my surgeries, listening to people about how, their life issues are being impacted by government decisions. So it's my job to make sure that I bring those stories and those issues back to this house. So I'm really excited about being here. It's a great job for a woman. Don't let anyone tell you any different. It's really good. I'm spending a bit of time with my family. I'm, really enjoying what I'm doing, and I'd like to see more women here. So it's a great opportunity for the Conservative majority government to really, really dig in for 2020.
So we should wait and see.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thank you
very
nice
much.
To meet you.
It was a great pleasure. Thank you.